Hello, folks. It is JP Murray with the Push to Pass podcast. I'm here with my good friend Santino Ferrucci, the pilot of the number 14 AJ Foyt Racing Chevrolet in the IndyCar Series. Today, we're going to chat with Santino about some things that might be a little bit different than most of the interviews that you see. We're going to talk a little bit about the business of racing because you can read all about the third place finish in this year's Indy 500, the 2019 Rookie of the Year award. You can get all that content somewhere else. We're going to talk about some of the business of racing a little bit. Santino, glad you could spend some time with us. Let's dive in. What do you say?
Sounds good, JP.
Hey, so we've been working together now for almost 4 years, and really like the last half of the IndyCar season pretty intensely. And I know that you've been in racing, frankly, your entire life, and you've seen a lot of business deals, and you've been around a lot of sponsorship things. Maybe for the folks that don't see that on a regular basis, what's changed the most on the business side of racing, maybe that people might not be familiar with?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is to do with brand activation. I think even back in the day with racing, it was a big part of sponsorships. It's why you see a lot of big sponsors still here today. For example, in our series like NTT, I've done countless brand activations for them uh, throughout this year. And then one of our primary sponsors, Sexton Properties, she just absolutely loves racing, and it's a pleasure to have her on board. And we do what we can for her activations. And then ABC Supply, when we run the Homes for Troops delivery for the 500, it's all about donations. So, which is very new to me. So we raised close to $3 million, I believe, this year at the Indianapolis 500 alone.
That's a great one that you just mentioned. The Homes for Troops program generating that kind of revenue. I saw in some sponsorship data that associations and nonprofits were the largest growth sector in IndyCar sponsorships last year, with the American Legion, with your Homes for Troops program. I think it's something that's going to continue to grow, that people can activate their nonprofit organizations and support them through the IndyCar efforts.
Yeah, I think it's a really big deal. I think it's very touching stories. We were able to each house, when we are building these for these veterans, cost about $1 million. So to be able to sit there and raise them funding to build 3 houses is incredible. And then obviously with ABC being able to write off the sponsorship of the car for them as a business, it's a win-win for everybody. So it just makes a lot of logical sense. But yeah, you do see a lot more of that coming around. I think that's kind of the way that the world is going, and I think it's the new way of being able to justify putting your name on the side of a race car for a lot of people. Getting the tax break and the tax write-off is a huge deal, and also for doing it for a great cause. But yeah, you still have your very standard B2B deals that happen all throughout the series as well, with you know one person helping with buying the livery and the other one buying XYZ from the person that's buying the livery.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that you've been fantastic in. We've worked together on the Webco sponsorship for the last 3 years with the Chili Bowl. That's not that midget racing, and that on the dirt tracks, not something that you do all the time. It's been a fantastic way to activate in terms of engaging with the employees. And I know you've
Yeah.
always given a lot of kind of personal attention to your sponsors when you do work with him. Is that kind of one of the things that you like the most? Is it actually engaging with the sponsors, their employees, maybe even people that might be thinking about working for that company? Is that kind of a thing that you enjoy the most about sponsorships?
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I make a lot of trips up to visit a bunch of sponsors. Webco, I happen to be spending more time than most, because part of that deal with the Chili Bowl is their in-house team morale activation. So for them, it really, if you look out on paper, if them sponsoring a race car doesn't quite make sense, because they don't make a business to consumer product. They are a
Right.
straight business to business product. So they're creating all the tubing for every AC unit that you see in the United States, all the truck rear end axles, all of the midget cars, all the tubing for most midgets that you see is coming out of a Webco shop. So it's just majority of things that they make that aren't exactly, you're not going to Webco's website as a person and buying this. You are buying it through a third party that's already bought it. And so to do a sponsorship with them to drive in a Webco race car, which is technically what it is in the Chili Bowl, the tubing is all stamped from Webco or the third party that purchases their tubing, AED. It's a very cool feeling for their employees to come out to the race, to see the car, and to know that those are the tubes that had passed through on their machines and that they had packaged and shipped out to a chassis manufacturer to build.
We've spent a lot of time at the track this season in the NTT IndyCar series, and I see you, and you're going from a sponsor activation to sponsor activation. You're going up to the suite. You're greeting people inside the paddock. I'm bringing folks in to introduce you to them. And I think about this and then realize that you've got to get into a car and run 230 miles an hour like 10 minutes beforehand. People are on the grid and they're wanting to say hello. And it makes me anxious. How much time, say during an IndyCar race week, do you spend fulfilling sponsor obligations and maybe press compared to being in the car and race prep?
I think the time that you're spending with sponsor activations, with autograph signings, with sponsor dinners, to actually driving the car and working with engineers is close to 50-50, which is probably a lot more than it used to be. I think that there's a big demand right now for someone that can manage to do both and to juggle both. You have a lot of drivers that just don't do it. But for me, it doesn't hurt my performance on track. And I'm a type of person that likes to stay really busy on race weekends. I don't like to sit because I fidget. So for me, it works out really well to go from activation to autograph signing to engineering meeting to getting ready to drive the race car.
This is a funny one that people won't know this. Only Santino and I know it. So we're getting ready to work on a sponsorship for the Indy 500, and Santino is getting ready to prepare to race for the pole, and he had a car that was worthy of it. I remember like 30 minutes before, I'm nervous, and 30 minutes before the race, Santino is texting me back on, hey, we can go ahead and do this in the hospitality suite. We're working on some of the specifics. So you can get laser focused really quick. And I greatly appreciate it. And I'm amazed at that being something that you're able to do. What do you think a motorsports sponsorship and that companies that do sponsor, what might they miss or underestimate that they could utilize and activate that they may not be familiar with? Is there anything that says you sit there and you go, wow, if they did this, it would be a much better program? Any tips from the driver on sponsorship?
I think it's just being able to bring people out. I think a lot of people, especially new sponsors, when you bring them to the race, they're kind of, oh, it's cool. It's Indy 500. I went when I was a kid, or I went when I was, in the 80s or the 90s or something. Like, it went tons of years ago and they sat in the stands. I think it's a completely different activation when you sit there and they actually come in the paddock up close with the cars, right with the commotion that everything's going on. And every time you bring someone new around or a new sponsor, they're just like, why have I not been doing this sooner? Why am I not, doing this every year? So I think just the idea of being in there in the thick of it is a huge selling point. And also for them to want to bring their friends, their clients, or other people to experience it. The way that you experience it through a driver and a team is very different than you being able to go buy a ticket. I mean, it's like going to the Super Bowl and sitting on the field right next to the coach and
Yeah.
seeing Tom Brady walk by. I mean, it's just like one of those things. It's just, it's just access that you just can't go out and get online and just go plan a buddy's weekend for.
Yeah, it's this is Santino's got a fantastic point. The accessibility in particular around the NTT IndyCar series is unbelievable. If you are a sponsor and you're at the race and we go through the whole weekend with you and your guests, let me tell you something, friends. They will call you back on that business deal because the experience that they have during that race weekend is something that they will never get anywhere else. And man, yeah, spot on. Spot on. Hey, final question for you on this. Appreciate it so much. if I had a company that wanted to be involved or even learn about motorsports and wanted to start kind of evaluating it, what would be the first step that you would take if you would have a company, or what would you recommend them to do?
If I had a company, I would, and I was looking at coming in on a team, a lot of things there's a lot of things. It's, you want to define what you're doing it for. You want to do it because you love racing, you love cars, you love the driver, or if you want to grow your business. So if you have, for example, a flooring company, right? You put down tile floors or wood floors and stuff like that. You want to go to the races to potentially find new clients, because there's a lot of people that in the industry that are there and via however you want to do it, construction or home building or race shops, or I mean, take example, Unifirst is big in the racing, and every shop needs to or has sponsors that need products cleaned by Unifirst, uniforms, rugs, paper towels, gloves, all that stuff. You're living in a manufacturer's world. So, and that racing is just a bridge into it. So I think if you want to look into coming into racing, you want to look at to why you're doing it. So you're either doing it for the love of sport and wanting the access and taking your clients and your friends and your family there because it's something that, it's of a unique experience, or you want to grow your business with other people in what's manufacturers based industry. So I mean, it's endless possibilities. So it just depends on which angle you're wanting to approach it from.
Yeah, and I'll echo this. Here's the other thing that I would suggest as well. Those are spot on. And the other thing that I would recommend is you're going to see and hear numbers, if you follow racing at all, in the millions and the tens of millions and the 20s of millions. And coming from experience, when Santino and I started working together, when a number of years ago with our first IndyCar sponsorship, I mean, they want you to get involved, and they're going to think about the reasons, think about the things you want to accomplish, and they're going to build out a budget for you that helps accomplish those things. They're not going to turn down, well, not the folks, not Santino and I, we're not going to turn down opportunities to kind of connect and look at the opportunities that we might be able to provide and deliver on your business goals. So don't get spooked by numbers you may read in the press, because I can tell you that companies, drivers, and brands and these teams really want to get involved with new companies. So that would be the thing that I would end on. Any final thoughts, Sandman, before we go today?
No, everything is completely customizable to the company. So
Yeah.
it's just depending on what your budget looks like and how long you want to be there and how big you want to go. So it's just like I said, if you approach a team like JP and I, or to want to do something in racing, it's we'll end up building and spending the time and taking it out to build something for you and to build something personal for your business.
It was one of the best moves I ever made in my business career, is to get involved in motorsports, because it frankly made my small business look bigger. And the brand being in the Indy 500, man, let me tell you, it catapulted our brand in the industry we were in. And people were going, what are those guys doing? So folks, I wanted to end with that today. Santino, thanks for joining. And until next week on the Push to Pass podcast with JP Murray, good luck and happy growth to you. So long, everybody.
Take care.